Good. Hello, I am Pisces Palmist, the online palmistry reader reading entire lives from emailed hands alone. Now, this person asked me a very profound question, two questions. When will I achieve my inner happiness in life? And will my legacy continue after I pass on? I have here several images, but these are certainly the clearest. I can see, actually, I've got a great deal of information from all of the images combined because this one's taken nice and flat on, and with the fingers together, I get um, a different idea as to other aspects of their personality and their traits and things. So sometimes, I've got a nice clear image here, but these are taken at somewhat of an angle, and that can distort findings. So altogether, I've got quite a holistic view of who this person is and what they're capable of. Palms are tonic, as far as a hand type goes, but there is quite something of a sensual, but also actually something of an intuitive hand type mix here. The fingertips are also quite sort of mixed as well, in that you've got something of a spatulate nature, that they're kind of almost almond-shaped fingernails, and this is almost spatulate as well. So there's kind of a mixture here of conic and spatulate fingertips. So there is quite a mixture of um, hand types here. I would say certainly sensual and intuitive. If you want to know what I mean by those two hand types, please do have a look on my website. I've got a very detailed blog about 12 different hand types, and you can check that out and have a good read. I'm not going to repeat myself, but when we have a composite hand, a mixed hand, so to speak, we have to look at the specific key traits and conclude from those signs together. So the heel of the hand is very heavy, it's very low down with this person. Jupiter, sorry, and Apollo mount sit very even with each other. Saturn only just sits higher on the palm than any other mount, and the Jupiter finger and Apollo are almost perfectly level, which again provides us with this idea of someone who's very has a very good understanding of their own capabilities. And the headline in conjunction with this, it starts quite high up on the hand, and it works its way in a very direct manner towards the other end of the palm. Now, in ancient Rome, this was known as a table line, and emperors would look for this line in the hands of their soldiers with a view to promote to general, because the table line, the straightness of that headline, it shows us um, how many responsibilities we can put on that person. And so this person is someone probably who has a great many responsibilities, who is very able to handle those, has a very level head, but is also able to laterally think, is a planner, very tactical, and that's evident by the outer Mars mount as well. That's very strong. But this in modern palmistry is known as a Sydney line, and essentially the length of a headline like this, the straightness of it, shows potentially obsessive qualities, but also someone who is it's a sign of someone who is their decision making affects the lives of many. It's one of the signs of fame in palmistry, as is the level Jupiter and Apollo fingers. Essentially, we don't achieve great things by sitting around and not acting on our inherent ideas. There kind of needs to be a little bit of an obsessive quality to do the very best, to be the best, and that's what that kind of Sydney line indicates. Now, you may have heard me say this before, and this is particularly true when reading the hands of a composite hand, that which stands out requires serious investigation. And in this hand, for me, there are two things that really stand out, and that is the fate line. The fate line differs greatly on the left to the right hand. And the other thing, and you may well have already noticed this, is this right here. This is one of the key events in this person's life that sort of shaped their life. I'm not going to say who they are because they were already fully developed by this time. They knew who they were and where they wanted to go and what they wanted to be. You know, they're already that person because this happened mid to late 30s. So I'm going to explain the differences between the left and the right hand fate line and what I think this means here because there's quite a few things attached. You know, overall, there's a great sense of this is a many-lined hand. This person is thinking a lot. They're thinking many lines in a hand is a sign of anxiety because it shows that potential for, well, not potential, in fact, just straight up amount of thoughts. So it's a sign of anxiety because when we are overthinking, that's often anxiousness. And when we are anxious, we are thinking ahead. We're living in the future. Now, as I've already mentioned, this is someone who is an incredibly able planner. They are thinking ahead. Outer Mars as well. It's the place of strategy, tactics, and planning. And this is a well-developed mount. And, you know, there's even a little sort of branch here coming off a health line. This is someone who is, you know, the thoughts are literally attached to them physically. They can't break away, and it's affecting their health, this overthinking. And that's also evident in the many vertical lines on all of the fingertips. This is adrenal burnout, and that's because this person's just working so very hard. So I have already in my mind a conclusive piece of advice for this person, but I'll do that when I summarize. Now, this programming of potential kind of anxiety seen in this person, this overthinking, is always seen in the hands of people who are risk assessors because it's very, very difficult to switch off. When you work in that mindset, it becomes hard to pull yourself out of it. You're always thinking of the worst, and you're always trying to plan and create security and structure for those around you. Now, the fingers in this person's hand, they all lean towards Saturn very gently. So again, this person has a very measured idea of themselves and the way the world works. And really, they are, I would say, a very well-balanced individual. Again, that's kind of coinciding with what we see here, that very level-headed person. There's a great sense of, there's a really lovely balance about this person in terms of their inherent creative thoughts. There's a lot of quick, kind of intuitive, creative ideas that they're very able to action and act on. There's a good deal of action in this hand, practicality as well as abstract and creative, imaginative thinking. So there's a really nice blend of both here. They're not too one of any one thing. But what the fingers mean here, the way they kind of gently all lean in towards Saturn, is that these attributes hold Saturn upright. And Saturn holds everything else upright because it's about being bright in society. Saturn is the finger of societal contributions, of planning, of time, of the inevitable, traditional values, security, home. And so this is everything that this person stands for, and every other psychological attribute about them, their ideas of the self and the world around them and how they express to that world around them, all lean in and kind of depend on all of these outer sort of attributes, depend on and will work towards all things Saturn. When we look at the nails, they are, you know, Apollo very spatulate, and Mercury is somewhat as well. Saturn is just about as well, um, and really spatulate always means action. It's the upward flow of energy and us expelling that, expending it. The fingers being so outwards here, Jupiter as well leaning towards the thumb fairly dramatically. It shows this person's idea of ambition and how they want to impact the world around them. When the forefinger and thumb kind of seem to um, lean in on each other like this, it's showing someone who's keen um, to mold the world around them, to quite literally pick things up and put them down, to kind of delegate, to manipulate. I don't mean that in a bad way, but this is someone who has great intentions to change the world around them. Coming back to this headline here, it is attached to the lifeline for quite some time, and this is always a sign of someone who's cautious, um, and potentially, quite a single-minded sort of plodder, materialistic potentially, um, but it's someone who's a planner and doesn't take risks and likes to think things through quite sort of logically before going ahead. But sometimes they can miss the boat in terms of opportunities because they are lacking in the confidence to take the plunge. And so they miss opportunities at times. I would say that confidence has been something of an issue, perhaps. And that's because the low set Mercury is certainly a long Mercury finger, though. It's not as though their voice is in any way reduced. This person has, I feel, very strong expressive uh, capabilities. And I think they have a good understanding, a good um, idea and thoughts and feelings about artistic beauty as well. The fact that the headline, it begins actually, it's combined with the lifeline, but it does begin quite sort of high up on the palm itself. And this is always an indication of someone who is quite ambitious. And I find that the headline sloping in this nature, um, as well as remember I mentioned that the heel of the hand here is heavy, it's low set. Pluto essentially is well developed. Past memories for this person are strong and affect them greatly and lie dormant in them. And they likely find it very difficult to let go of past hurts. Now, for people who live with trauma, that's especially difficult to deal with. And I also think that past life memories are very strong within this person. And this person probably feels that they they have a purpose, a reason to be here. And partly why I said that is because of the fate line and the way it kind of cuts the palm in two. On the left hand in particular, the left hand shows us what's internal. This person's thoughts and feelings about their predestination. They don't feel they have a choice in life. Essentially, things happen for a reason. They are part of destiny and the spinners of the web of fate, as it were. She is at their mercy. So this ties in with these deep kind of past life thoughts and feelings for this person. There's a strong feeling about their purpose in life and where they're heading. And that ability to, I say ability to hold on to the past. It is an ability because it's a strength in that this person learns from their mistakes very well. It's only a weakness in so much as when they let it affect them negatively. This person's inner and outer Mars mounts are exceptionally strong. Look at the development of this and this. So inner Mars is determination and drive, motivation, anger, passion. It is Mars is the god of war, and when we've had enough, we fight, we push back, and we make change. We change our life, and we say, no, I'm not having that anymore. Now, Mars sits on top of Venus, the lady of love and battles. battle sits above her. The reason why this, well, it's just who this person is, but the reason why we have this influence line here coming from, or, kind of being provided for by inner Mars, shows this is showing great change. And this left hand is showing us how this person feels about it. This moment of great change in their mid to late 30s, I'd say 38, impacted this person tremendously, both emotionally and physically, practically, environmentally, as seen on the right hand here, maybe even more so environmentally. Again, we see it at um, mid to late 30s. And this is, for me, it's clearly a divorce. And it happens at this age, I would say 38. And we can see just how disastrous this was for this person's domestic sphere, as we see an island here inside. Um, it is inside the Venus mount, but more specifically, it's inner Mars. This there was a lot of anger attached to this, and there was a great deal of change. You can quite literally see the lifeline here changing course at this time. Everything was affected. Every aspect of this person's life was turned on its head. Why wouldn't you be angry about this? I've devoted my life to you, and it's all gone pear-shaped, and you've ruined my life. There's that kind of feeling here. That's not necessarily true, but there's certainly, in terms of feelings, but certainly everything has been turned on its head. It was a very painful time, a time of great change. But going back before all of this, we have here the two things I notice about this hand in terms of the heart line is that it's different to the left and the right. On the left hand, it presents as quite something as fairly straight. Now, remember that this is what's within. And the reason why this is straight is because this person has had to kind of retract and put their walls up and guard themselves because of the hurt they've been through more than once in their life. Because when you look at the heart line here, notice it kind of crashing into the head and the lifeline where they were joined. Now, when the head and the lifeline are joined, we haven't yet carved our own independence. We're not yet strong enough to stand on our own 2 feet. So when the heart line hits the head and the lifeline where they're joined, we are particularly vulnerable. Now, Beryl Hutchinson said this was a mark of um, trauma, of shock, of unresolved shock. And so there is essentially dormant trauma here, unresolved trauma here, as a result of this time, early adulthood, I would say 18 or so. There's even something of a star just here, early to mid-20s, attached to the life and headline. This is a very shocking incident that may well have um, seen some hospitalization. It could be a car crash or some sort of attack. So there's both emotional and physical traumas here. The latter being more physical, I would say. So we've got 18 and early to mid-20s, maybe 25. There's another incident here. It's just very shocking, unexpected and sudden. But again, this is the left hand. So let's see what the right hand says about that very same incident. And yes, we do see a square on the inside of the lifeline. This is potentially hospitalization at this time. On the fate line, I believe you would see that as here. I would say this is potentially early to mid-20s, and you can see this kind of shocking moment just here. It's also attached to this as well, and this is sort of late 20s. So it could be one of these two. I would say actually more this one. This looks more like it. The right hand heart line, it shows a different sort of curvature, and what this really shows is this person has had time to heal and develop emotionally. The foundations of their emotions have healed somewhat, and they've been able to kind of reach back out again and develop new relationships again, and bring some of those guards down and be a bit more vulnerable again. And as well as that, you can see that by the nature of the head and the heart line, notice how the space in between the two enlarges. Um, I would say as time goes on, but you can't read these lines in terms of timing events so much. It shows how this person is warming up as they age and is learning to work through those past hurts. And I would say, particularly this trauma at 18 has been the most impactful and has, um, in many ways, shaped who they are and the way they react and respond um, to to events and incidents in later on in life. So let's move on to the fate line, because in the left hand, it's a very different formation. It almost acts as the lifeline in later life. That's this sort of appearance it's giving. And it seems, as I've mentioned, cut the palm in two. There's an island seen just down here, which is significant. Um, and there is something of an influence from family, and attached to this influence line is something of a drop-down window. And this, for me, really it paints a picture of an event close to home, affected by home. In the home, there was an incredibly awful one, and there's a secret close to home here as well. Now, this secret will likely come out in some time, probably about 10 to 12 years' time. I think this will come out, if there is one there, if I'm right about that. And what I notice about this is that this career line seems to be sort of embedded with and inside the lifeline. This person, it kind of gives the impression that this person was their life and their path in life was decided for them by their parents. On the right hand, it's a little bit different because the fate line comes from Neptune, and and as it does, it sort of attaches itself to the lifeline and then breaks away again from the lifeline. So the roots of the lifeline, of the fate line rather, are in Neptune, but they are attached to the life. And so this person's, in order to complete their destiny, the literal physical life force is required. This is hard work, and that is evidenced in the many lines all over the hand, the stress, the constant thinking ahead, the adrenal burnout seen in the many vertical lines on the fingertips. So it kind of shows a picture of someone who didn't want to work in the family business, but then decided, okay, I will. Um, or something similar, at least. Perhaps they set up or began to do their own thing that was similar or working alongside it. Perhaps they set up a business which is now the family business. There was a move when they were young, and this move, you can see this travel line right here, and you can see the way it affects the fate line when they're young. There's great change here, and this change is a really good thing, because without this great change, it wouldn't have been possible for this person to achieve what they have and what they're going to. Now, what I should have mentioned earlier on is this person is 54. Where they are in their life right now is actually around about here. Just here, about a year's time, there is a bit of a crossroads year in their life. 55 might well be a karmic year for them. And there will be some digestive issues at this time, as seen by this right here. It cuts all the way through. But I'm going to get around to explaining. I swore I saw a spider then. I'm going to get around to explaining advising in terms of health shortly, but this right here is a lovely little sign of advancement and progression in happiness. And this is I'm getting around to answering one of their questions: when will I achieve my inner happiness and sense of achievement in life? Well, that certainly begins for you next year, 55, very soon. But I'm coming back to the fate line, difference in the left and the right hand here. Notice on the right hand, the fate line, it's quite complex, but it does fork. It forks wonderfully. And it does this for different reasons and inspired and influenced by different things. One of those things is certainly related to the family. There's support in order to ensure this continues. So I'm hitting on that second question, legacy. But notice the strength of the fates line after this time as well. There's a great deal of fulfillment and satisfaction at this time as well. And when we read the sun line alongside this, the sun line is much happier at this time as well. There's a lot of change here, and it's not easy. It's not straightforward. There is certainly some loss at this time, but after this loss, things really look up. So it's almost as though there needs to be a little bit of um, spending money or loss of there's a door closing in one way, and for others to open, that has to close. There has to be some loss, but it's not tremendous. And there's a massive square here, kind of protecting this loss. It's not huge because look at the success afterwards. The success line or sun line forks as well alongside the overall forking of the career line, and then the career line does the same, or fate line, if you like. And what this really shows us is that, the fate line is like a tree, and we go through life, and sometimes we're supported, we're given all the ingredients we need to create those roots, strong foundations to pursue and continue our path, our journey and our destiny. And that's what the fate line is. And in terms of that plant that it is, it needs all of the ingredients. Um, and this really shows the tremendous hard work you've put in life is about to enable some pretty bountiful fruits to bear off these branches that develop. So really, you've got here a very healthy fate line, and the rewards are looking very promising. However, I think been a tendency to spend a large, at least quantity, portion of life preparing for later life, preparing for even after life. And life is for living, life is for the living. And once those fruits start to bear, which is very soon, the first of which those signs will start to show next year, but truly in, I would say, late 50s, so 58 or so is where things really start looking up. It's going to be gradual, though, to be fair, from sort of 55 onwards. Very gradual rise into a much happier place. Um, to much more positive um, places. But really, my advice is to enjoy what you have when you have it, to actually stop working and live. Unless working is what you enjoy, but there's certainly been a tendency to overwork, and this has affected your health. The stress and the anxiety in as a result of living in the future has impacted on uh, digestive health, and so really, I think watching your diet is key. The resilience and the determination, the endurance, that strength is just tremendous here. And you can see there's a kind of a faint root of a sun line here as it reaches up through this outer Mars and strengthens the overall roots of other sun lines here. It's just remarkable. And what this really shows us is just a massive kind of dogged determination to achieve by any means necessary, really. And this, this is a hand of someone who is a tactician, a strategist, a planner. And I think they're actually a very well-rounded individual, very level-headed, actually a very decent and compassionate human being, um, with a very good, strong sense of right and wrong, very strong traditional values. Family is very important to this person. But if you were to cross them or their family, you would regret it because they are likely very able to tactically um, seek out justice. I'm not going to say vengeance, justice. Justice is quite important to this person. And that's why I think divorce was so difficult for them, around about the age of 38, because they're so loyal. This is a strong loyalty line right here. And they were loyal to what they committed to. So to have to break up that legally binding union is actually goes back on their principles and their values. I think that was why it was quite a hurtful time. But there is certainly a need here, health-wise, to look after the gut. And actually, I'm not going to give too much advice around diet because the digestive issues stem from stress and overwork. So the solution really is to work smart, not hard, actually to work less, and you will be able to do it. And in turn, you will be physically healthier. You'll sleep better as well. When a person spends their life laying the foundations for the future, planning, risk assessing, thinking ahead, it can be near impossible to switch off. And you've kind of programmed yourself to just sort of, you're in a sort of state of frenzy almost, because you're sort of always thinking about the worst case and what lies ahead. But that's not living. And this can cause some quite dramatic physical implications, and that's seen here in the adrenal burnout on all the fingertips. There's thyroid issues here as well, and that's probably because of the adrenal burnout. Glandular malfunction, basically, due to overwork. Essentially, there is nothing to fear. As I say, there is some difficulty in terms of finances ahead, but um, this will iron out. This will work itself out very nicely with support from the family, and after this time, 65 onwards is things are looking just remarkably happy and prosperous. So there's nothing to fear in terms of looking ahead. And the family legacy, the palms will really only show us a view of our own lives. So it's not really possible to speak of afterwards. However, the strength of this legacy is remarkably strong, and there are certainly familial ties with how and why the strength of this person's path and destiny is so strong. So I can't see any reason why their legacy won't live on. And I have nothing but good thoughts in mind in terms of the future for this person, so they have absolutely nothing to fear. I hope you've enjoyed this reading. I hope it's made sense. It's been a bit of a wild ride, and I've thoroughly enjoyed reading this hand. If you would like a palm reading with me, please do visit my website and book a palm reading. Please ask any questions at all. And if you'd like to learn palmistry, please sign up for my level 2 membership, where you can learn regularly with me and a growing, emerging community of palmists. Thank you very much for watching, and please subscribe.